and out kind of, and I was like,
Okay.
I hope this isn't my mic, and then you went mute, and then YouTube caught up, and I was like, okay, now.
Yeah.
That's one thing about the delay is like I couldn't tell if you were trying to fix it or you could even tell if we were
We're good
talking
now.
to you.
We're,
and saying,
we're live now again. I'm just going to wait for people to
Okay.
join back.
Yep. Mute up.
I'm not going to touch my microphone going forward, like at all. Sorry about that, guys. There's people already joining back. It wouldn't be an NFL live stream without technical difficulties, so that just had to happen. But we're good. You guys can still hear me, right?
Yep.
All right, we're good. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into the slate. Kevin and TJ, I think what we're going to do is we're going to go position by position, if that's okay with you guys.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's start at the QB position. As we've done many times, TJ, let's just start up by talking about the chalk, and then we will start talking about GPP options within that range. So let's start at the very top here, talking about Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, we've talked about in many different videos. TJ, can you go ahead and just give your spiel? I know you already have one about Lamar Jackson, some crazy stats to throw at us.
Yeah, so Lamar obviously has a pretty good matchup against this Cleveland Browns defense that ranked 19th last year against opposing quarterbacks. We know Lamar Jackson is a dual threat, not only with his arm, but also with his ability to scramble. Loves to hold on to the ball and actually take off. Ranked 6th last year in rushing yards in the whole entire NFL. And I know we alluded to this, Matt, in the breakdown. The Kawhi laugh just scared the crap out of me. I know that we alluded to that in the video that we made. I mean, if that pocket starts to collapse on Lamar, he can just make plays with his feet, and it's absolutely amazing to watch. So I definitely like him as a cash play today. He's carrying the most ownership I'm showing Matt 14%. Let me just bring up my sheet real quick that you provided us. Okay, I'm showing 12%. So yeah, the quarterbacks, the percent ownership is actually kind of spread out a little bit. 12% for Lamar Jackson being the highest is somewhat low in terms of GPPs. So, I'm definitely going to have a handful of him for sure, but I definitely love him for cash. I think he's in a really good matchup against this Cleveland Browns defense.
Yeah, I mean, you have to agree with the whole Lamar Jackson thing. I mean, 12% does show pretty low just because it's a 12-game slate, but you're talking about a ceiling of about 20 points. I'm going to go ahead and click on the screen here real quick. His floor last season was 20.8. You're talking about a QB that's in a boom or bust situation. If he does bust, that's the only chance you have at taking down the GPP. So coming in at 12%, I mean, it's borderline GPP cash option. If you're going to go contrarian today in GPPs, it's to not start Lamar Jackson, literally, to just completely get rid of him from your player pool. But for cash, you have to go with Lamar Jackson if you can pay up for him. As we've seen, a lot of injuries have come out in other positions, so we'll kind of talk about that. So it allows you to pay up for Lamar Jackson. I think that ownership is a little bit too low at 12%. I think it's going to creep up to about 20% as we get closer to lock. Kevin, what are your thoughts about Lamar Jackson?
I mean, like I said in our last video, Matt, I think he's going to be a good play. Obviously, it's Lamar Jackson. And I think what is he averaging? About 30 points a game, 29.8.
It's something crazy like that.
Yeah, I mean that's unreal. Though I think we did talk about both of his stints against Cleveland last year. He didn't hit that quite, but one time he was real close. He's got a really high floor. I think I want to say his worst game was, I think the 20-point game was his second to last worst game, with Pittsburgh being his worst game, but by far that was a 15-point game, and I think he's obviously gonna excel and probably live up to that against Cleveland. I mean, it's a divisional matchup. I think he's going to be a great buy. I think I agree with what you're saying too with the ownership too. I mean, his ownership is 12 is pretty low.
Yeah, it's pretty evenly spread out after Lamar Jackson too. You're seeing him carry the most ownership. I think he's the only double-digit ownership quarterback on the slate right now, followed by Russell Wilson, almost at 8%.
Yeah, he crapped off. He was pretty low last time we looked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think after Lamar Jackson, it becomes pretty much everybody else. We can just kind of throw everybody else into that basket. It's Carson Wentz next on the list, Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, Cam Newton, Garoppolo, Tyrod Taylor is actually up there at 5.4%, which is actually surprising. Drew Brees is lower owned. I don't know how accurate that's going to end up being. Trubisky. If I just kept going down this list, guys, who are some of your other options you would start at for cash only? TJ?
Cam Newton. That's
Okay.
it. That's the
Newton.
only guy that I want to take. I'm so excited to watch Cam play today, Kev. I know you are too. I definitely think he's a pretty good GPP play. He's showing, is it sub 5%, sub 6%? I'm tinkering between so many different tabs that I have open currently.
Yeah, he's about 5.7%.
5.7.
Yeah, so sub 6%. I definitely like Cam as a flyer at 6.1. I mean, Tyrod Taylor, Matt, you alluded to, taking over that Chargers offense. That'll be interesting to see a guy not Phillip Rivers blowing it in the fourth quarter. So I'm definitely interested on Tyrod Taylor going up against that Cincy defense. The over-under kind of scares me a little bit at 41. It's one of the lower ones on the slate, and their team total's 22, which is middle of the pack, I would say, for today. But, again, sub 6%, I definitely don't hate him. I know you alluded to Jimmy Garoppolo in one of your videos earlier. I think that's a pretty not sneaky shootout game, actually. San Fran has one of the highest team total over-unders at 27.5. That game I kind of like to maybe shoot out, so I definitely want some shares in that Niners offense and Arizona as well. So I definitely like Garoppolo. Boys, any interest in Mitchell Trubisky?
No.
I mean, none, Kev?
No, especially with Montgomery looking like he's going to play. I mean, he's just you run first on that team against the Lions.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's going to set up a lot of options. They want to get David early and often this year. They talked about it. They want to get that run game going. I mean, that was supposed to be like the precedence that they relied on last year. You know what I mean? And they just couldn't get it going. And I think they're going to try to get that back. I don't think it's a bad play. I mean, 5,400 is really cheap.
Yeah.
It's just in a somewhat similar price tag. Looking at Jimmy G, I like your previous mention of Jimmy G a lot more.
Yeah, so real quick, while we have 55 viewers in here, if you guys haven't given my QB wide receiver tight end stacking video a watch on Fantasy Cruncher, I know a lot of you are using Fantasy Cruncher. Feel free to go do that immediately after this stream. One thing you guys always have to do, no matter what, I know you guys have some $5 GPP tickets out there for that $1 million prize, so you're going to do it today because it's going to be in the optimal. Stack a QB with a wide receiver. Come back with a game stack. Because as we saw in the Fantasy Cruncher settings last season on Fantasy Cruncher Rewind, 78% of optimals had a QB wide receiver paired with another wide receiver game stack, which is 78% of the entire season. So when we're alluding to a game stack of Arizona, San Francisco, stack wide receivers in that game, come back with a QB. And again, we have all of our favorite QB wide receiver stacks on our Patreon today. Literally, we already posted them. Feel free to sign up today if you haven't already. $20 a month gets you that and so much more. It also helps support the stream. All right, so going down the list. Now, we already talked about cash. What do you guys think about some sneaky GPP QBs? I know you had already went into that territory with Cam Newton, but do you guys have anybody else in mind?
I personally think Drew Brees is most undervalued guy. I mean, 6,800 is a lot. It's not. I don't want to say it's undervalued. That's a lot of money to spend on a QB. But I mean, they've really alluded to the fact. I mean, the narrative, we talked about this before, Matt, that the narrative is Tom Brady's making his debut with the Bucs, and everyone's going to be all over him, wondering what he's doing. And I think that's going to kind of light a fire and put a chip on the shoulder of Drew Brees. Sean Payton is going to just, I think, let him be Drew Brees, let him do what he wants. If that means if they start going up, I think he's just going to let him light him up. I know we talked about this, a couple other people and analysts and people close to the organization alluded to that. And I think he's got something to prove. I think he's got a chip on his shoulders. I mean, it's not fun being as much of a veteran as Drew Brees going into your first game in your own stadium and not being the center of attention. So I think he's got a point to prove.
All right, I heard that, TJ. So
Michael Scott.
So we yeah, no, I completely agree with you on Drew Brees. I think Drew Brees, and I'm not giving away any Patreon content, don't worry, guys. Drew Brees is one of my favorite leverage spots. And also going down the list from that exact same game, Tom Brady was on there earlier in the week, Kevin, but he's actually not as good as a leverage play now. He's slightly inflated in ownership compared to what he was. I think he was looking at like 2% ownership, which was crazy. Now I think he's a little bit higher if I pull up my sheet. Tom Brady is at 3.9, which actually isn't that big of a boost, but it's enough to inflate the ownership compared to these other guys. So, yeah, no, I'm completely on board with Drew Brees, and the reason is because the $6,800 price tag is in that awkward range. And, of course, you're going to come back with an Emmanuel Sanders or Michael Thomas stack if you decide to go that way. Obviously, Michael Thomas is one of the highest owned wide receivers on there, so take that as you will for a leverage stack with Emmanuel Sanders. I know that we talked about that all week. But, yeah, that's one of my favorite stacks there. TJ.
I have one interesting betting side
Okay.
tidbit for this game. So this game actually opened up with an implied over-under total of 49.5. It is now down to 47.5, and I just checked Bovada. It's at 48, with 80% of the actual bets coming in on the over.
Okay.
So that's telling me that sharp money is actually on the under in this game. So I just wanted to throw that out there for our viewers and for you guys as well. So that's just something to keep note of.
Let me hear your opinion on it. Do you think that's going to end up in a shootout?
I mean, it's always tough to fade the sharps, especially the numbers that I'm seeing. Like 80% of public bets are on the over, just because you got Brady and the Bucs in that offense. We've seen that Mike Evans is going to play, but he's going to be limited. I feel like he's going to be more of a decoy. You add Emmanuel Sanders to that Saints offense. Obviously, Kamara just got his deal yesterday. All things point to a shootout. But the fact that this line has dropped 2 points and there's 80% on the over doesn't make sense. It means that the sharps are hammering that under. So I'm going to take that news and run with it. My guess would be that, no, it doesn't shoot out. I think I'd be more interested in that 49ers and Cardinals game.
I can actually agree with you there. I think if there's another game that is sneaky on the over here, it's going to be that Carolina-Las Vegas game. A lot of people are actually thinking that same thing, which is why I actually have Derek Carr rated pretty well on my Patreon sheet. I won't give it away as my favorite stack, like I said, but I do like that game as well. Do you guys want to move on to the running back position, or you want to touch base on any other GPP quarterbacks?
I'm going to move on, and I think
Dwayne Haskins.
Dwayne Haskins. I was looking
Total shot.
I love
looking at his
Washington
price, and I was
plus 6, so I'm kind of eyeing Dwayne Haskins there against Philly.
I was looking at his price. It's intriguing.
Yeah, I mean,
you get a quarterback for $5K.
Philly gave up the fifth most, passing yards against wide receivers. So like pairing him with a guy like Sims, and I mean, who else was I looking at? Actually, let me just bring it up. Where are you on my sheet, Matt? I don't have any of my.
Were you
Logan Thomas? That's who it was. Logan Thomas. Thank you. Yeah. So maybe I definitely have some intriguing Washington stacks.
Okay. And there's absolutely no interest in my boy Minshew. Are we just gonna throw him under the bus here? No. Okay.
Yeah. No. You wouldn't catch. No.
Okay. Well, let's just move on that note then.
I mean,
Matt, if it makes you feel any better, I did take the Colts for my survivor pool, so
that makes me feel a lot better. Thanks for that.
Take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah. All right, guys. Before we move on, feel free to ask any questions in the chat. I promise you, we will get to them. We're gonna spend about 5 to 10 minutes at the very end of the stream going over some of the questions, and we'll be scrolling all the way to the top. So again, feel free to ask any questions.
Real quick, so Noah asked where your paper bag was. We were also told that
I was supposed to do that, and I couldn't get a paper bag to fit my gigantic head, so that's the reason for it. So
that's good.
And
ironically, that was the point of the paper bag.
Yeah. So
Exactly, Kevin.
So listen here. Actually, the ownership on the running backs adjusted right before my eyes. It hasn't changed too much from the sheet that I. What?
Boston Scott week, baby.
Yeah. It hasn't changed too much from the sheet I sent you. He's actually approaching 30% now. Let's just address the elephant in the room here. Boston Scott, do you guys believe in the hype? Do you think he's good chalk, bad chalk? What are your thoughts?
I say good chalk.
Okay. Good.
I think bad chalk, but
okay.
I mean, I understand it. He's so cheap, and he's going to – who knows what kind of touches he's going to get. I mean, Matt, Kev, we were talking about Chris Clement earlier. Like – that backfield's a mess, obviously, with Miles Sanders being out. So it obviously makes sense against that Washington team. So I understand rostering him in cash, but maybe in GPPs, I'm probably going to fade him.
I just think in that offense with everything going on, Jalen Reagor is still like on the line. I mean, apparently he's healthy now. We don't know about that. I mean, Deshaun Jackson's essentially their number one option. I mean, it's just I don't think they can throw it to anybody safely except. I was going to say even Goddard, but. Yeah, I think Boston Scott, I mean, at that price tag, he really has to absolutely just be trash to not be viable at that price tag. Yeah. So, and it allows you a lot of salary saving for actual studs. So I'm going to put Boston Scott in all my chalk games.
Okay, so here's my thought, because I'm a stack guy. You guys know that. So 24.4% ownership is what we had on the sheet for him originally. And when you pull up our leverage sheet again, trying not to give away anything, but he's showing the most inflated. I think that's obvious of any running back. And not only that, he's showing inflated by a lot. And what that simply means for anybody who is new to our channel is that you can literally pivot off of Boston Scott to any one of these other running backs. Let's just hypothetically say this isn't a direct pivot, but somebody within a similar price range like Josh Jacobs. If he outperforms Scott, you're looking at 10% leverage right off the rip there. And that means you're knocking out 30% of the field if Josh Jacobs outscores Boston Scott, which is very probable, I think, especially a 12-game slate like that. Just because of his ownership approaching 30%, my stance on it is bad chalk. I'm not saying because of the matchup, he's a fantastic matchup. I'm not saying he won't do well. I'm saying that the potential for any one of these other running backs to outperform him is really, really high. I mean, Christian McCaffrey's coming in at lower percent, 21%. Are you kidding me? Like, that to me right there just screams a huge ceiling for somebody like Christian McCaffrey. I know the price tags aren't similar, but if you pay down, let's say at QB, go up and grab McCaffrey. Same thing for wide receiver. I mean, there's just a huge, tremendous door of opportunities there. But that is my take on Boston Scott. I will be deploying him in all my double-ups, my small GPPs. But for really big GPPs, I'm leaning towards a fade for Boston Scott.
I think that's okay for GPPs. I'm just saying for cash games.
For cash, he's
for sure.
Yeah, you got to lock him in.
I mean, Washington ranked third to last against opposing running backs last year. So, I mean, it's a great matchup for him. But again, with Miles Sanders being out, I definitely think he's a good cash play just because of that price tag, and it allows you to maybe spend up for Christian McCaffrey. But in GPPs, like Matt just said, I'll probably be fading him.
Now, here's another. I'm going to bring up Raheem Mostert. What do you guys think of him?
I like that San Fran offense in general. I think they're all under-owned today, just in general. I mean, any one of those guys.
One of the reasons I bring that up, too, I mean, obviously he's got a somewhat intriguing price tag at $5,800. He's coming in at somewhat lower ownership at 6%, looking at right now. But, I mean, the number one person he's going to be competing for touches with this year seems to be Tevin Coleman again. And Tevin Coleman might not play. Right. He's got sickle cell and that whole issue, and it's something with the San Fran air right now. I remember this was an issue last year because it was a very – I think it was – actually, was it – I want to say it was when he was on the Falcons playing the Patriots, TJ. Actually, he had something to do with the air and he couldn't play.
I'm pretty sure it's I don't know if it was when San Fran traveled to Denver or if it was when the Falcons traveled to Denver, but it was when they played in that high altitude. Yeah, because that sickle cell, he wasn't able to play. With that game in the wildfires out west, I'm pretty sure the AQI this morning was at like a 170, so that's just the air quality index.
Yeah, it's at 150. He can't play, right? Yeah,
so I don't know what specific number it is, whether he can play or can't play, but I just know that this game had a chance to potentially get postponed. But that is if the air quality index approaches 200. Like I said, it was at 170 this morning. Last time I checked, which was like an hour ago, it was at 152. That was a report that I saw. So all things point to this game being played. Again, I'm not too sure what air quality index number would make it so Tevin Coleman can or cannot play. I think they said it was 150
plus the other day, and he was already saying.
So yeah, that's definitely something to keep an eye on, because if that's the case, Mostert is definitely in a great spot at 5'8", and what I think is going to be a potential shootout game between the Niners and the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think if we're sure that Tevin doesn't play, I think that makes, for me, right next to Boston Scott for chalk. I mean, you're like the only thing that makes Mostert, let's be honest, the only thing that makes him not a top 15 running back all year long is competition. Right. So if you eliminate that competition, I mean, the talent is there, the opportunities there.
Yep.
I love him for GPPs. I mean, you look at San Francisco in general, and do they have any superstars on their offense? I mean, literally, they're probably one of the most boring offensive teams to watch. I'm just talking from a spectating standpoint. Their GPP numbers are always coming in so low, at least the percentage ownerships. I am absolutely in love with San Fran. I might be in love with them all season, and they're now tied with the highest over-under on the slate with the Baltimore Ravens. And we know the Ravens are so explosive, and when you're comparing them to the Ravens, I mean, why not? Why not take a stab at any one of these guys on their offense? For sure. All right, so cash plays. Any more cash running backs? I know I talked about McCaffrey, Jacobs. Anybody else that really pop up on your radar? You guys thinking about?
I'm looking at Antonio Gibson. We talked about this. I feel you got to address it. I mean, he's 4,000, and It's just we have no idea how that backfield's going to play out. We've seen Boston Scott. We know he can do well. We know the Eagles trust him. That's why, like at 4,800, I just like him so much more. Antonio Gibson, we don't know how it's going to play out. I mean, obviously, it's more of a PR thing and more so than just a coaching viewership of that offense or that running back depth chart. But we had J.D. McKissick listed as the number one running back. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't have faith in Antonio Gibson, especially on that offense being able to get to the run early. I mean, there's so. Dwayne Haskins, there's just so many volatile just things that we don't know about. So I think even at 4,000, too many what ifs. I mean, I don't know. I'm not ready to touch that yet.
Yeah, no AP anymore in Washington either. Obviously on Detroit now. So you got Gibson, you got McKissick, and you got Peyton Barber all fighting for carries. And without preseason and obviously being able to see these guys on the field yet, it is tough to kind of gauge who's going to do what. So like Kevin just alluded to. That price tag at 4K, he's definitely going to carry some ownership, but I'm probably going to stay away from him because we just don't know how those carries are going to be distributed between those guys. So,
if you thought Boston Scott was bad chalk, you can't convince me that Antonio Gibson is good chalk.
Right.
He's out. I mean, this is the worst chalk in the world. I think I see no upside, and along with any of the Jaguar running backs before we talk about them, no, just no. I mean, there's no upside there. You're comparing them to any one of these other bell cows on the slate, and it's night and day for me.
I like the person below him, though.
Who? Eckler for ownership?
Eckler. I'm big on Eckler.
I know you were. Go ahead and talk about
a wagon.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, he's a wagon. I mean, he's an absolute unit. I was just telling, I don't know if you know this, TJ, but I was talking to Matt the other day about this, and I think it was it's kind of like a common conception that Saquon Barkley might be like the strongest pound-for-pound running back or even player in the NFL. And,
have you seen the man squads? Have you seen the man squads?
Oh, I have no problem.
They don't quit.
He's got a body that won't quit, and I absolutely don't disagree with that. I was on that train until I saw Eckler power clean 15 pounds less than him at like 35 pounds less in weight.
Yeah,
he is a monster, and I think he's going to be great on that team this year. Even with, I mean, who's going to spell him? Even with Melvin Gordon, quote unquote, spelling him last year. He was still, with Melvin Gordon, 5th in fantasy for the entirety of them playing together. I mean, I think he just has such a high floor in PPR. I mean, they're going up against a terrible Cincinnati team. I mean, it's Burrow's first start. I just feel like they're going to – I mean, if there's ever a chance for the Chargers to kind of get off to a good start with their new quarterback woes and all that stuff, I think this is the game to do it, and I think Eckler's going to be the centerpiece for that.
Before we move on, Timmy, thank you for the subscription. Girl Power 99, thank you so much for the subscription. King of the North, thank you so much for your subscription.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it, guys.
Scrolling down the list, Miles Sanders is still projected ownership. That's obviously wrong. I don't understand why that's a thing. If you are starting Miles Sanders, please don't play DFS today.
Please find my contest. And
please find all of our contests. Yeah. Dalvin Cook. I also like Dalvin Cook. I think that's pretty straightforward. 7,900. I like him for GPPs because he's coming in lower ownership than all these other studs, and it's still Dalvin Cook, and it's still the Vikings. Like 7,900 is such an awkward price tag. I think I'm just gonna say I like him more in GPP. Those are the top rated guys for ownership. Do you guys see anybody for GPPs? I have a few in mind, but I'm gonna go ahead and lead off with Kevin. Kevin, do you see anybody for GPPs that you're thinking about?
I mean, a couple people for GPPs. Honestly, I like Marlon Mack, 5,300.
Yeah, you already took mine.
It's over.
It's over. Yeah,
that's it.
Sorry.
Yeah. Move on, guys.
I love his ownership, and I just love his opportunity. I mean, amazing O-line. Quentin Nelson is probably the best O-lineman in football right now. I mean, I think that he's going to be able to run as long as he keeps that job. And they said they're going to carry the hot hand, so he has a lot of weight on his shoulders to keep his job. So, and it's not the Jonathan Taylor show yet. So he's got to keep him away. And I think.
Kevin, aren't the Jaguars good at football?
All right, I'm going to
really
not.
And on that note, we're getting off.
Weren't they second to last against the run last year?
But they're really
made no improvements on the defensive side? Okay, yeah. So
guys, I was more interested in the Clemson game than I am the Jaguars game today because that's going to be our future quarterback.
Should be.
So, yeah.
That's your future. Yeah.
So, speaking of GPP running backs, top on their Patreon sheet, which I'm not giving away anything again, Mark Ingram. I really like Mark Ingram. The reason is because nobody is looking at Mark Ingram. 27.25 is still the over-under, and I believe the ownership on Mark Ingram, let me go to him real quick, 7.2%. Why is he 7.2% and one of the most explosive offenses in all of NFL? And then obviously Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack. I know there's a lot of what ifs about that offense, and because of that, nobody is taking anybody from the Colts. And you just alluded to Marlon Mack. Right now, he is a starter on the depth chart, so I get that. But Jonathan Taylor's also not a bad option if you're looking for really big GPP options, because we technically don't know. Like, we can talk about it all day, but we don't know what's going to happen once they actually get on the field. So, anybody else? TJ?
Yeah, you better get those. You better get those Mark Ingram plays in before J.K. Dobbins takes that starting role by like week 6. So
100%.
make sure you're playing Ingram now. No, I think you guys touch base. I mean, I'm gonna play Le'Veon Bell just because nobody's on him, and he has the worst matchup against that Buffalo defense, and they have the lowest team total over under at 16.5. But I'm so heavily invested in Bell in fantasy football that like it's forcing me to play him in Draftkings just because that's how my brain works. So yeah, I'll definitely have Lev Bell. Unfortunately, I wouldn't tail it, but I'm gonna do it. He's showing at what, like sub 2% ownership. 4.5 is what I'm seeing actually. So that's super
cool.
low for a guy
that's
with
cool.
his...
You want to throw away $5,600?
I know. That's why I'm saying don't tail me. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna have some Lev Bell. But no, I like what you guys were just talking about in terms of that Colts running backs situation between Mack and Jonathan Taylor. I hope you guys choose correctly because, I mean, they're going to roll the hot hand, so we don't know what's going to happen here in game 1.
All right, so let's move on to wide receivers. I think we're approaching about 20 minutes in the live stream, so I think that is a nice halfway point to switch over to wide receivers.
Absolutely.
Chalk for wide receivers isn't as straightforward as I thought it would be. Devontae Adams is actually coming in at the highest owned. I'm not confused about that, but I did not expect that. I expected somebody like Michael Thomas to be there at the top. Deshaun Jackson's moving up the charts. That is obviously good chalk because we just talked about the matchup between the Redskins and obviously their wide receiver depth, 4,900. I'm not going to say good chalk, but that is obviously one of the chalkier options on the slate. Marvin Jones is up there, 15.7 because of Golladay. McLaurin is up there at 14.7%. TJ, what are your thoughts on the top 5 wide receiver chalk options? Who are you looking at?
Well, if you're looking to pay up in cash for like Lamar Jackson and then McCaffrey, it's going to be tough to get one of those guys like Michael Thomas and Devontae Adams, who are both in pretty good matchups. I'm looking to buy down a little bit at a guy like Thielen. It's a little bit tougher matchup against that Packers secondary, but no Diggs. I expect Kirk Cousins to force him the ball. Obviously, they're going to be a run-first offense with Dalvin Cook, but I expect Thielen to get those double-digit targets. He can definitely make some noise in that game. And then Marvin Jones at 5.5, I think he's a pretty clear cash play without Golladay. Obviously, another tough matchup against that Bears defense, but at that price tag at 5.5, being the number 1 option for Stafford, that's where I'm looking.
Kevin, thoughts?
Don't disagree at all. I like Marvin Jones. I think Marvin Jones is one of those guys. He's such an unsexy play that people sleep on him. Same T.Y. Hilton category. I mean, a little bit less than T.Y. Hilton talent-wise probably, but he's very good. He catches touchdowns, and I mean, I think he can do very well. I think he can absolutely his price point and beyond that be a big GPP play. And then I don't hate Devontae Adams at that. I mean, here's the thing. Devontae Adams can put up Michael Thomas numbers. I mean, realistically, 2/3 of the time, he's probably going to put up Michael Thomas numbers. It's just that 1/3 where Michael Thomas is so consistent. But, I mean, so at 7,300. Yeah, he's just got to stay healthy. The talent's there. I've always been a big Devontae guy.
Huge toes.
Huge feet, huge toes. I mean, big old turf toe.
His toes always getting hurt.
It reminds me of AJ Green.
Healthy. Yeah, oh my God.
Yeah, so, I mean, I like him. We talked about Allen Robinson, too, earlier, Matt. 6,500 is not cheap, but, I mean, PPR, he is a PPR monster and can get touchdown upside. I mean, he's one of those guys who can do a little bit of both. He's not just a PPR guy. We're not looking at Jarvis Landry. He's not just a touchdown guy. He has the ability to do both. Could score very well. I love DK Metcalf. I just think the talent's there, 5,800. And again, he's one of those guys I could see him. This might be the last time you get him for 5,800. You know what I mean? Moving forward. So this could see him being one of those guys. But those are some of mine closer to the chalk line. And T.Y. Hilton at 58. I mean, we love T.Y. Hilton here. I mean, he's just, I don't know about TJ, actually. I can't speak for TJ, but I know you and me do, Matt, and it's just that's a cheap price for him. I know there's a little bit of question marks with him and Phillip Rivers, but I mean, T.Y. Hilton, I think, is quarterback proof as long as he's healthy, and at 5,800, I think he can hit that very easily.
Since you like T.Y. Hilton, what are your thoughts on Paris Campbell from also the Colts? Because I know he's at 3,900, and his ownership's actually increasing.
Yeah, it's a price tag. I mean, a lot of people are big on him this year. Again, I kind of want to see him first. I want to see him do well enough to bode confidence that he's worth his price tag. I mean, we're worth rostering at all.
Yeah.
So I'm not sold yet on him.
Okay. My takes on wide receivers are this, guys. The optimals last season, there were so many random wide receivers that appeared in the optimals. If you guys feel like taking a chance on any wide receiver, take it, because they are the ultimate make or break in NFL DFS. If you grab some chalk running backs, they usually make the most sense. They usually have the highest upside, the chalk running backs. But where you're contrarian and where you should go contrarian is your wide receiver pick. I have, out of I think there's like over 178 wide receivers actually listed on Fantasy Cruncher. I have exposure to about 96 of them. So I have exposure to pretty much every single wide receiver that's fantasy relevant at this point. But again, you always have to pair with the quarterback. Look at your quarterbacks that have the highest upside and then immediately pair with a wide receiver, even if they're a third stringer, okay? Don't be afraid to do it. Do not be afraid. I completely agree with Devontae Adams. Both of you guys are just like kind of like a neutral stance on him. 18.8%. Michael Thomas is obvious, 16.6%. I'd play him in smaller GPPs. Deshaun Jackson, 16.4%. I think once you go a little bit further down the list here, like Marquise Brown, again, that over under in that game makes completely no sense to me. 27.25. I mean, it makes no sense to me that he's this low owned at 5,100, 14.6%. Golladay is showing ownership. Again, if you're playing Golladay today, then please join my contest as well. Metcalf, obviously not a bad option. And then Allen Robinson, further down the list. We're not going to talk about DJ Chark because you already know your views on Minshew. 6.7%.
I was going to say, I love Chark.
Okay. So, DJ Chark, what are your thoughts on him then?
I mean, that's a game where your Jaguars are going to go down 10 in the first quarter, so they're going to need to throw to try and get back. And I think DJ Chark's the guy that Minshew's going to hone in on and try and force the ball to.
Somewhere in Minshew's six interceptions, he's going to hit Chark a couple times.
Yeah, so, I definitely agree with that.
Here's the thing, and I'm trying to ignore the troll comments. DJ Chark is also in a great he's in a great position for that exact reason. Blake Bortles, I mean, how many seasons ago? I think it was 2 or 3 seasons ago where he put up like one of the best fantasy performances at the QB position, because not because he was good, but because they stunk so bad and they're playing from behind the entire year. Same kind of situation. Yeah.
You're
just like
you're
Jameis.
starting. Yeah, Matt, you're starting offense in your significant players, actual significant roles, is Gardner Minshew at quarterback, James Robinson at running back, Chris Conley, and then DJ Chark, and then James O'Shaughnessy at tight end.
Don't forget Westbrook, bro.
Westbrook is a healthy scratch today, so Westbrook is out.
Yeah, Conley would be the next go-to, I guess,
so
if you
it's
believe
DJ
in them.
Chark and Chris Conley in a game where Jacksonville are 8-point dogs. I mean, that team total is only 18 points. I think
they're
it's
only
the lowest.
8 now?
They're one of the lowest in the slate. Yes, they're 8-point dogs. They're coming now. I think that's. I can tell you right now where they are. But yeah,
I think it was at 7, so it's actually it's going worse.
It's going the wrong way, but rightfully so. Yeah, so I mean, I definitely like DJ Chark at 6.3. If his ownership is going to be low in GPPs, I'm all in on him. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Not all in on him. Let me digress there, but yeah, some in. I'm some in.
Yeah.
No, but I like Chark at that price tag and at that ownership percentage for sure.
That's
now,
another.
Right around that.
Go ahead.
Sorry, keep going. I was going to say, right around that price tag, you got Keenan Allen. What do you guys think of him with Mike Williams being like? I mean, Mike Williams was ruled out and then not out.
Yeah, it's a whole can of worms.
Yeah. So what do you guys think of him?
I like Keenan Allen, and I actually liked him as a longer season-long fantasy football option, just because I think that people are overlooking him. It's still Keenan Allen. He's still like a top-tier wide receiver. But yeah, I mean, I just like him. That's all I have to say about that.
I hated him. I hated him all year long until I saw the preliminary rankings for in the draft order for most leagues, and I was like, because I thought he was going to be maybe 20, even 30 with the quarterback change, and I saw him ranked at 50th, and I was like, okay, now I love Keenan Allen again.
Right.
Like, that's ridiculous. He's better than 50th. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's just undervalued in general.
Yeah, just undervalued.
Yeah, I think it's the whole no Phillip Rivers and Tyrod Taylor in as quarterback. So I definitely like Keenan Allen at the price tag, but I kind of want to see what kind of chemistry him and Tyrod have on the field before I start to invest in him, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of where my head's at.
Now with that kind of like injury, like we're talking one guy left. I mean, we got to talk about Mike Evans. Mike Evans is not likely to play. You think he's going to be decoy, TJ? I'm still trying to figure out that myself for
I think
fantasy leagues.
he was doubtful. Now he's questionable. Now it looks like he's gonna play. So if he is in, unfortunately, that game doesn't start till 4:25. So a bulk of these games do tip off. It's basketball. They do start at 1 o'clock. There's 9 1 o'clock games. Then there's only 3 4 o'clock and 4:20 games. And unfortunately, that Bucks game doesn't start until 4:25. So I feel like a majority of your shares are going to start at 1. So if Evans is in, which it looks like he is, I personally think he's going to be a decoy. I find it hard to believe that you're doubtful, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, you're going to play. It's just like,
right.
What changes in?
And I think he's a big
hours?
enough name and talent.
Yeah,
where
for
I think
sure.
Exactly
They're going to have to game plan for him if he's playing. So yeah, I definitely like Godwin. Again, Tom Brady down there makes me sick, but. I'm more interested to see like what Brady does with Gronk. I think Godwin's going to get his no matter what. I personally think that Godwin's going to be Brady's favorite target. Kevin, you and I talked about this. Brady really has never had a guy to throw outside the numbers to. Since like Randy Moss, honestly.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see what he does with Mike Evans, who's more of an outside of the numbers type route runner that can go and make a play if you throw it up to him. Brady hasn't had that in a very long time.
I was going to say, does he still have the arm for it? We know he likes the slots, so
don't you? He has the arm for it. He's got the arm, man. He's got the arm. That arm doesn't quit. But yeah, I definitely like Godwin to get his today for sure. If Evans is limited at all.
My only thing is this: if Evans is limited and really looks to not play, is Marshawn Lattimore going to get put on Chris Godwin? And if he does, that is a problem. I mean, he shuts down everybody. He shuts down Evans every time he plays him. I think Mike Evans is more of a talent than Chris Godwin, different player. But I don't know.
I think that's why. Maybe
I like the way you're thinking. Maybe they're like,
get
him out there, get Marshawn off.
Right, that makes Lattimore follow Evans, even if Evans is gimpy and limited. So now Godwin's going to be the top
scorer this week. Okay,
exactly.
got it. So
just write that down. Yeah.
That actually makes a lot of sense. It could be
chip jab.
You just figured out
if they just do that to draw Marshawn, I mean, Godwin's just going to run free.
Yeah.
But if Marshawn's on Godwin, I think if you look at the list last year of all, it was disgusting. It made me want to puke. It was like, it just showed the yardage against every time he played Devontae Adams when he played, and it was just like,
he's a whack.
Yeah, it's a problem.
TJ had mentioned Gronk. I think that's a good transition to tight end because we have about 10 minutes left in the stream. I'm just trying to speed things up just a little bit here. So let's go ahead and transition over to tight end. At the beginning of the week, we had Zach Ertz coming in at the top-ranked tight end. Now it's George Kittle, which actually isn't that surprising because he's a stud, and we talked about the over-under, and they are ranked 30th in the league. At least Arizona was against opposing tight ends last season. So all of the matchups, ownership, salary, all of it makes sense for Kittle. What do you guys think about Kittle there at the very top? TJ?
Yeah, I definitely like Kittle at 7-2. I mean, that price tag is super high, especially in relativity to the other tight ends. But for me personally, I really like a Jimmy Garoppolo, Kittle, and Bourne stack. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm targeting that Niners-Cardinals game. I expect it to be a shootout. It's probably going to be like 10-7 at halftime or something, and it's just going to go miserable. But that's where I'm going. That's the game that I really want to focus on. So I definitely like some stacks there. I definitely do like Kittle. It's a very good matchup against Cardinals. So yeah, I'm all on board in Kittle. He's projected to be the highest owned tight end, and I think it makes sense.
Kevin, you agree? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I was going to say just I was high on Kendrick Bourne too, especially with Debo out, and just to pay attention to Ayuk there too. But yeah, I like that. I mean, that offense. I mean, I think 7,200 it is going to hurt you, and a tight end. I hate paying up for tight end, but I mean, it's Kittle. Kittle's amazing. So.
Yeah, I'm not going to say any more because you guys just touch base and everything. Kittle's obvious. Herndon on the list next. 33.
Good salary saver.
3,300. Okay, so I already got your opinion on both those. So you just love him. 12.6% makes sense. Okay. Mark Andrews.
I think.
Okay. Go
I
ahead.
don't love him. I mean, obviously it's against that Buffalo defense, which has just been absolutely great over these past couple of years, but. I mean, just at that price tag of 3.3, a guy that could definitely see some volume in a game where they're going to fall behind. It's just it's super cheap. It's really cheap. So I think it's a good cash play if you're looking to spend up at running back and wide receiver. If you can't get up for a guy like Kittle or even like maybe in that higher to mid tier Zach Ertz, I think Chris Herndon's a good salary saver.
Mark Andrews, thoughts?
I love Mark Andrews. I mean, I think I told you earlier in the year. 40% of snaps he played last year. They just got rid of Hayden Hurst. I mean, that's it. That's all I need to hear. And he did what he did with that last year. He's amazing.
Yeah, it was like 41% of snaps he played last year. No Hayden Hurst, obviously,
crazy
in Atlanta. So it's like Mark Andrews is going to be on the field way more than he was. And we saw the season he had last year with Lamar Jackson. I feel like they had a great chemistry. That's the word I'm looking for. I think they established a really good chemistry last year in Andrews' rookie year, and I think he's only going to get better the more snaps he plays. So at 6K, I definitely love that. That tandem won me my fantasy league last year. They were nails.
Yeah, that's great. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then Zach Ertz, who was the top-rated tight end at the beginning of the week, is now at 10.8%. And also his duo, Goddard, is at 4.2%, going against the 32nd last ranked against opposing tight ends last season. Defense, and the not Redskins, but the Washington football team. Had to bite my tongue there for a second. So I love that combination of Zach Ertz and Goddard. I've been preaching about them the entire week. If you guys watch my videos, you're just sick of it at this point. Do you agree, TJ, since we haven't heard your standpoint on those two?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like Ertz more than Goddard. But again, if you need to save the money and you don't want to go with Herndon, I definitely don't hate Goddard at 4-1. It's a very good matchup against that Washington football team. My upset of the week is that the Washington football team actually starts 1-0. So
okay.
I'm assuming Philly wins by three scores now. But yeah, no, I definitely like Ertz. I feel like he's obviously going to garnish the most targets from Wentz. I feel like they've established a good rapport over these last couple of years. Yeah, it is a tough word, and words aren't my best thing. So I do like Ertz at that 5A price tag. I think I might want to go to Mark Andrews at 6K, but again, it's a toss-up. I'll have shares of both for sure. And I mean, Deshaun Jackson's probably gonna leave the first quarter with like an ankle injury, so I feel like Ertz is gonna just see like 17 targets or something absurd like that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all, and I think Goddard too is intriguing. I mean, people don't like the second tight end option. It's rare that it works, but I mean, Philly throws to tight end second most in the NFL behind the Chiefs, so works for them. I'm just going to touch on one person I like real quick. I think I've touched on everybody here at some point. I'm just going to say, I mean, Hayden Hurst is good too, but I do think for me, looking at budget, Jack Doyle's the best on the board here. I mean, there's just so much upside. If he plays with no competition, no Ebron, and Phillip Rivers, who loves tight ends, I know we haven't seen it yet, their connection, but I just think this could be one of the cheapest you see Jack Doyle for the rest of the year.
I like it, Kev.
I've never been more motivated for my Jaguars to just beat down the Colts because all you've done is talk about the Colts this entire stream. So I'm actually getting angry over here about you guys. No, but Jack Doyle rates actually fourth best on our Patreon cheat sheet. Again, not giving anything away. But he's a very good GPP option just because of that 9.1% in potential upside. And look further down the list, Gronk, we've already touched base, 2.7%. So if you guys want a GPP target there for tight end, 2.7%.
I'm too iffy on Gronk. Like, I don't know what his snap count's going to be. He hasn't played in a year. A lot of people are just like, oh, yeah, Gronk's going to dominate. And I don't know how you can just, like, go away from football and not play.
Screw you. He's going to dominate.
20 months, Gronk. And then all of a sudden, I mean, he's so fragile. He lost weight. I mean, he looks great now. So, and I mean, he's back with Brady. I wouldn't be surprised if he went for 102 scores. But any interest in Logan Thomas at 2.8 guys for Washington? I mean, so cheap, and that offense is just. They're going to win today, like I said. But
I was going to say, well, since they're winning, I don't know. I look at that.
2.8 is absurd.
It's absurdly cheap. I don't know. I mean, and they use tight ends. Washington uses tight ends.
Yep.
But I don't. Yeah, I was going to say Chris Herndon at 3.3, or even. I mean, Jack Doyle's getting away. That's 800 more. But I mean, if you really want to punt, it's not a bad option. I mean, so what's he got to hit? Essentially 5 points to be worth value, a little more. I mean, that's not undoable. It's not undoable, and it saves you a lot of salary.
You just gotta fall backwards on a 3-yard touchdown pass, and there's 6.3 right there, and you virtually hit value.
Yeah.
I mean, Washington has to score, but they're gonna win, like I've said. So I mean, I like win. I like it as a pump play at 2.8. It's so cheap.
I don't hate it.
I was crunching my 150 lineups before this, and I had one out of 150 be Logan Thomas. That just shows you, Logan. That's right, his first name. Yeah, Logan Thomas. So that is my take on him. I'm much higher on just guys with potential upside. I just feel like these other guys just have so much more. I don't know. I'm a huge upside guy. I'm looking to take down that million contest today. So, All right. 2:13. I know you have to go in a couple minutes, Kevin. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap it up real quick. with the defenses. We're just going to touch base on them real quick and then go through the questions. If you guys want to spam your questions into the chat, we'll get to every single one that we possibly can. Patriots, number 1 on the board. Do you guys agree with the Patriots? I don't know if you have any thoughts on. Okay.
It's my boys, but no, I don't know.
Oh, you don't? Okay, you're being serious. Okay.
Yeah, I really don't. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be. I mean, this is the best matchup we probably have all year, but I don't think sans maybe the Jets, but I don't think this is going to be a defense. It's not going to be the same defense as last year. I'm about to start crying. So can we just move past it?
TJ, I know you disagree. At least I think you do.
Yeah, I do for sure, Kevin. You're just not it. No. It is obviously no Hightower. Lost our mic. There's no Chung. So it's definitely gonna the defense is definitely gonna have a different look this year. But got Gilmore, got both McCourties, J.C. Jackson. So I still think that secondary is going to be elite. I just think that front seven's kind of scary.
Couldn't agree more.
Winovich, Dietrich Wise. It's definitely going to be. I think Juwan Bentley's our Mike this year. He had some practice at that when Hightower was out last year. So I think Hightower is going to be a huge loss for the Patriots defense. We've seen that in the past when he has gotten injured. Defense definitely, it's night and day when he's out. So that was a really tough opt out. I'm not too like Chung, obviously, but I think that secondary still has the pieces. I just think that linebacker position for the Patriots might hurt a little bit this year. I'm excited to see Bentley play, but I do like them in this matchup against Miami though. I think Fitzpatrick throws at least 2 picks.
My favorite defense on the board was the Chargers. I mean, I can see the Patriots doing that. I like the Chargers just because of the matchup a little bit more, and I don't know. It's Burrow's first game. I just don't think he's gonna.
He's a stallion, man.
Hey, he is.
Why not, Matt? Why not just pay up $2,000, Kevin, and get the Colts at?
We're done talking about the Colts. I said this.
As Amanda walks by in her. Sorry.
We only have 170 viewers right now. Okay, so
Amanda's walking around her bathrobe in front of 170 people. Everybody just left.
All right. So let's just finish up with the defenses real quick. So you said Chargers, you said Colts. I'm not going to mention anybody on Patreon, but one of those 2 teams I just mentioned are actually top on the list. And then my Jaguars all the way at the bottom, 1.3%. They're creeping up the board in ownership. I'm just saying. We have.
I'm just saying. Don't just throw
the Eagles. Hey, listen, the Eagles are sneaky too. I know that TJ agrees with me, but 3.6. They're in an awkward price range. 3.6%.
I just told you Washington's going to win today. Why would I take the Eagles defense?
Yeah. TJ, you don't agree with them now?
I never agree with them.
Okay.
All right, keep going.
No, I was going to say let's just go to questions because again, I need to put an update onto Patreon. On the that's a Patreon question. I'll get to that. Privately, how much salary should you leave on the table for big GPPs? Great question. We saw an optimal. We were looking through this on the Fantasy Cruncher Rewind. The optimal was $43,200. So literally going all the way down to $43,000, save some salary, get extremely contrarian. Maybe not that much, but I am personally using $45,000 as my minimum salary to be completely contrarian. What do you guys think of Cam Newton, James White, Edelman with Parker bringing it back with that stack? Love the support and thank you. Or no, love the show and thank you. What do you guys think?
I like Cam James White stack. I've been talking about that all year. And he's also been, I don't know if you've seen this tee, but he's been apparently building a pretty good rapport with Edelman and Cam.
Yeah. Jules is already banged up, which is, what else is new? I think to try and get Cam comfortable, they're going to try and get the football out of his, out of his hand quick. So, some dump offs to James White, some short slants to Julian Edelman. I definitely like those.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, you heard it there. They love the stack, both of them.
So no, just asked if Uche is going to be on the field for Pat Steve. Sorry, he's out today. So no. Go ahead, Matt.
I saw earlier on the board or earlier on the chat. I don't see it now. Oh no, I see it now. Who's the best value running back? Definitely Scott. Scott is by far, I think, the best value running back. Some other guys that we mentioned. Let me just go and crunch by value here. Ingram, if you want to consider him value. Marlon Mack is our favorite GPP value running back. I think we all came to an agreement there. James White also is under the radar, 6,000. Somebody just mentioned him in the chat. That's creeping out of value range. Any more to touch base on, guys? Any more?
I just saw someone, one question real quick. Someone said best quarterback on DK for GPP under 6,800 or at, and I wanted to say Drew Brees. That's my opinion.
Yep, I agree with that. That's just at the range of value. Somebody said Gronk looks best in 5 to 6 years. I hope so, at least for us Gronk fans.
Mm-hmm.
Westbrook.
Hopkins or Josh Jacobs flex for GPP? Anybody want to take that one?
I'm sorry, what was it? I was
D-Hop or Josh Jacobs at flex, GPP?
Ooh, it's tough.
I'll take Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough.
That's very tough.
That is tough. It's again, you have D-Hop going to a new team. Got to see what that chemistry looks like with Kyler Murray. I think Kyler's going to be very excited to see a guy like D-Hop on that offense and just see a superstar and just want to force him the ball. So I could expect a big game from D-Hop. Again, that's the game that I want to target. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think Josh Jacobs is a safer play, though.
Yeah, the same price. I mean, it's close, but...
Again, you said safe, so I'd say if it's a big GPP, go D-Hop. I mean, I've watched that guy just torch the Jaguars defense for so many years, and he has some of the best hands I've ever seen out of any wide receiver. I mean, the dude just catches everything. I'm a really big Hopkins fan. I think if you're looking for a big GPP option, go Hopkins, but the safer option is Jacobs.
And he can't do bad with Kyler. We saw him have 3 quarterbacks in 1 year with the Texans and still absolutely whipped, so...
Yeah. All right, Adams/Djax, which is Deshaun Jackson for you guys who don't know, Robinson and T.Y. Cash. I would go with the first option there, Adams and Deshaun Jackson. Yeah.
Yep, go with the first two.
All right. I just joined. What's your favorite stack? You guys, without looking at Patreon, who's your favorite stack? First one that comes to your head, go.
Shark Minshew.
Okay. Wait, is that?
Shark Minshew.
Man, I didn't know this was the Jaguar Rose show. I thought this was a free-lock show here.
I like Cam Newton, James White isn't appealing to me.
Okay, I'm gonna say my favorite game stack is just I feel like I'm beating a broken drum or broken record is Arizona and San Fran. So Garoppolo, Kittle, Bourne maybe. Kyler, Kenyon Drake, and D-Hop, something like that. That's where I'm looking.
Again, I'm trying not to give away info, but I think that we have not talked about these guys, and that's Las Vegas, at least their passing attack right now, and I think that game has a sneaky over-under of going over-under. I think that there's so many options to look at just wide receiver-wise that just flies under the radar. Derek Carr still can sling it. I like that offense. For GPP only. Listen, for GPP only, I think nobody's on them at all whatsoever. So,
I mean, two starting rookies in Ruggs and Bryan Edwards is just it's kind of insane.
Terrifying. And
then you got Renfro in the slot. So it's going to be interesting to see how Derek Carr, after a pretty piss poor season last year.
Yeah.
With like I said, he's got Waller obviously. I think Waller's going to be his security blanket. But Renfro in the slot, and then like I said, you get 2 rookies on the outside between Ruggs and Edwards. So it's definitely going to be interesting. I think there's some value there though, Matt, for sure.
Yeah. Kittle, question mark. Yeah, we touched base on him. I think he's the safest option at the tight end spot. I would probably only go cash and limit and GPPs, at least if you're trying to take down the million. I think that he, as far as his inflation, it's pretty high. So again, a great double up, but not so high on him for bigger GPPs. Any interest in Cam and Harry stack? Do you guys want to touch base on that?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. We'll see how they do together, but not yet.
Arizona versus San Francisco may not play, question mark. Is that because of what? Is that
the air?
There, yeah.
Yeah. If they do play, I love it. I mean, I think it's going to go, but if it doesn't, that would make me sad. Actually, I'll look that up right.
Thoughts on Chris Thompson if the game script plays out the way they think it will for GPP?
That's a good question. I don't know what to think about that.
Again, I mean, you're talking about upside, so I'd say that's a viable option if they can keep it close. I get that if they fall back like way behind, they're going to be passing to him. But again, you're looking for more downfield targets at that point, like DJ Chark, which is what we talked about earlier. I think Chris Thompson's a great option if it's just a complete shootout the entire game. But that's a big what if. Like, I don't think they're going to keep it close. If I'm being unbiased, not that close anyway.
Jets Bills stack, no.
No, I was actually high on that earlier in the week just because of their ownership, but it's actually fallen down on our radar.
Yeah.
Why is Deshaun Jackson so low on everything this year? No way his legs are gone. I've seen him pretty high. Is that
I was going to say, I actually think a lot of people. I mean, he went pretty early in all my leagues. I didn't think he was getting a lot of hate. I thought he was actually getting less hate than he usually gets. People usually don't like Deshaun Jackson, but I don't know. I think
DFS is getting a ton of love, so I know that much. Jim, thank you so much for the subscription. Really appreciate that, man.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, guys, do you want to wrap it up here?
Yeah, I'm sweating so bad in my sweatshirt.
Okay. All right, so final thoughts on the slate, guys. First of all, thanks so much for tuning in. We listed all of our favorite cash and some GPP options here on the live stream. If you guys did enjoy, please hit that subscription button, notification bell, and smash that like button for all of our future support, all of our future live streams and videos. Also, Patreon, $20 a month gets you our favorite leverage stacks every single week for every single slate. Not only that, I didn't even mention the showdown slates. We'll be posting our favorite showdown GPP options later in the day for Sunday Night Football and also Monday night. So we have pretty much football content all week. I mean, if you guys want to think about it that way. Not only that, MLB, NBA is still going on, so I'll be providing showdown support for that as well. And any final thoughts, guys?
Football's back, baby.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Unfortunately for me.
Life. Football's back.
All right, guys. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day. And let's cash.
See you guys.
All right. They can't.